And we are live. Good morning. Good morning. It is what, the 13th? Is it 13th of January already? Oh my God, we're halfway through January. Okay, so it is Monday, January 13th for the college students in Dearborn and Detroit. It is the first day of the semester. Welcome back. It's cold as shit. There's snow on the ground. I was shoveling again this morning. The last 4 days straight, I have been shoveling snow, which is good. I like to get outside and do the heavy work in the morning. We actually had a discussion in my household this weekend about whether we should get the snow blower fixed or get an electric, snow shovel or whatever. And I said, no, I want a regular old snow shovel so that I can throw the snow. I know I'm getting older. I got to watch the old heart and stuff. But I also, if you know me, you know that I've lost 200 pounds over the last 2.5 years or so. So my heart's doing okay. It's got a lot less that it has to pump through than it used to. So it is a 45-plus-year-old heart that is got half the size of the car that it runs now. So I'm hoping I get some mileage out of it. Take care of myself, do all that crap. But even just for my general well-being, doing the heavy work helps. You'd be amazed at when you have to sit in a faculty meeting and listen to people discuss things, when you get dysregulated, standing up, walking up the steps, heavy work, going outside into the cold without your coat on, again, kind of a sensory shock, like a cold shower therapy, and walking around the building and just simply walking right back to your seat and sitting down. That recharged my battery last week. So if you get a little dysregulated at work this morning, try it. Walk outside, take a deep breath of that cold air, and then walk back in. Again, it's cold without a coat, but that's part of the thing. I know there was a year or so ago that I was really dysregulated at a family event, and it happened to be in the winter. And my partner looked at me and said, "Go outside, take a walk. It's raining." And I said, "Okay." And again, whenever she'll tell me something like that, I trust her, right? Because my eyes are darting, my amygdala is fired up and ready to go. And so that helped. Standing out, taking a little block walk in the cold rain, letting it hit my face. And then I picked up a planter and held it over my head for about 10 seconds. It helped. And I walked in and smiled, and I had another 4 hours in me. Those are a bunch of students emailing me and asking me for the class code because they're not reading the messages that say, you have to log on with a different email. This is the direct link. So I'll have to spend the day doing that. So that's always first of the day semester stuff for me. Yay. But that's okay. Again, it's all there in black and white and in writing, but for some people, they still don't see it. I get it. I overlook stuff too. So I will contact them and let them know, even though I did contact the entire class today and said, hey, you got to be logged in to the website to access the onboarding form. You can't sign the form that's inside the classroom until you log into the classroom. And so people are logging into the classroom, but they're also not seeing that it tells you that some emails, because some students will have emails that are restricted based upon the school account that they're using, they have to use a personal email to log in. Which again, I take very seriously their privacy, which is why even with my students, I tell them, don't send me the files, give me access to the file, and then relinquish that access the minute the semester ends. I shouldn't have access to your files. I should not have your intellectual property. So protect yourself. All right, now that I've rambled. So let's see. Now that I've rambled, let's see. Okay, so let's talk about what we wanted to talk about today. Give me 2 seconds. Just want to protect my space and make sure that This room is clear. All right. So again, if anybody experiences any nefarious comments, harassment in any of these rooms, please let me know. Please send me a message. Let my moderator AJ know. Let any of my moderators on TikTok as well. We want to keep this space affirming, positive, all of that other fun stuff. And even though I venture off into the alleys sometimes, I don't want the alleys to venture back into here. So, because I deal with political discussions sometimes, and some people get a little upset, and then they try to come back and they want to take it out on other communities, and we're not going to let that happen. So, what is today's quote? I always want to start off the Neuro-Affirming discussion hour with a quote. And today's quote's one, again, near and dear to my heart because it is the second week that we're doing this. Last week was Hemingway's quote about being nobler than who you were the day before. And today's quote will be very apropos in the coming weeks. It ain't what you know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. And that quote is from Mark Twain. And again, it ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. And to kind of give you context for this quote, I want to tell you a little story. And this is on my wall. This quote hangs under a picture of this man because I, for personal and professional reasons, find this man fascinating, and he's one of my modern heroes. Even though we are from disparate fields and have disparate interests, we are kindred spirits. So if you don't know who Dr. Michael Burry is, he is often described as the genius who saw the crash. And Michael Burry isn't your average Wall Street guy. He's a doctor turned investor who had a knack for spotting patterns no one else could see. In the early 2000s, while everyone else thought the housing market was bulletproof, Burry saw cracks in the foundation, and he made a massive bet against it. So how did he do it? Here's the simple version. The housing market was booming, but Burry noticed that a lot of loans that banks were giving out were bad, and they were really bad. People with no steady income or credit were getting huge loans for houses that they couldn't afford. And these risky loans were bundled together into investments called mortgage-backed securities, MBSs. And on the surface, they looked like solid investments, but underneath, they were ticking time bombs. So Barry dug into the data. He realized that many of these loans were going to default and that this was going to cause a housing market to collapse. So he decided to short the market. And that means that he placed his bets into investments. Basically, he bet that these investments would lose value. Okay. And to do this, he bought something called credit default swaps. And he actually created these credit default swaps and begged the banks and insurance companies to create these credit default swaps. And these are basically insurance policies that pay out when investments fail. Everyone thought he was crazy. When he started betting against the housing market, people thought he was out of his mind. Housing prices had been rising for years. I know, I was in the housing market at the time, and everyone believed they would keep going up. Even his own investors doubted him, but Burry stuck to the research. He knew that feeling based upon the data was right. And even though everything told everyone around him that he was wrong, he knew it. So then the housing market crashed. 2007, 2008. If you lived in Detroit and the surrounding areas, you knew that it started much earlier than this. But the housing market crashed by 2008. And Burry, just as he predicted, right? And so the bad loans started defaulting as well. The value of mortgage-backed securities tanked, and Burry's credit swaps paid off big time. And this earned him, hundreds of millions of dollars. Interestingly, not before the banks had extracted, and insurance and trading companies had extracted some of their value as well. They actually held onto his credit swaps when he wanted to sell, and they wouldn't let him sell them. Basically, very similar to what you saw happen with GameStop. You can't fight the guys who write the rules. The takeaway. What is the takeaway from this story? Well, Burry's story isn't just about making money. It's about seeing the truth when no one else does and when no one else has the courage to act on it. And even when people call you crazy, yell at you, fire you, all that other stuff. So why does it matter today? So the ability to predict financial disasters made Burry a legendary figure. And he's still in the investment game, buying a lot of water futures. But people look at the contrarian, and the contrarian who bases it upon expertise and knowledge. He looked at the data. He did the deep dive. When everyone else was telling him this was a sure bet, he was like, yeah, but that's not what the numbers say. And it reminds me of a friend that I know on TikTok, that water bead lady who did the same thing with the toxicity of water beads. And even though everyone kept saying, these are not the droids they're looking for, everything is fine, they're non-toxic. It says it right on the package. She continued and she persisted, and she found that all of the research that is basing this assumption of non-toxicity is based upon one paper mill paper that has been cited and recited and recited 1,000 times over. And it was a house of cards. It was a house of cards. And she got the CDC to tumble that house down. So good stuff. So again, it's not what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. And that's Mark Twain, spoken through the voice of one of my favorite characters. If you have guesses who, drop it in the chat. Again, thank you. So in the news, what's in the news? Well, a couple good stories today. The IRS has increased ABLE account limits. So if you're in the disability community, you know that you cannot have a certain amount of money before it affects you. And the IRS has increased that limit by $1,000 in 2025. So now people, the IRS has increased the annual contribution limit for ABLE accounts to $19,000. So before, ABLE accounts allow individuals with disabilities to save up to $100,000 without affecting their eligibility for Social Security and other government benefits, with no limit for Medicaid. Funds can be used for expenses like education, healthcare, transportation, and housing, with interest earned being tax-free. Employed individuals with disabilities can contribute additional earnings beyond the standard limit, provided they don't participate in a retirement plan. Eligibility for ABLE accounts is set to expand in 2026 to include individuals whose disabilities began before age of 46, potentially adding 6 million more eligible people. Right now, there are almost 200,000 people in the ABLE program. And basically what this allows people to do, family members and individual contributors, to set aside money that will not affect benefits, because it is the case, or it has been the case for a long time, that people with disability save money, and saving that money disqualifies them from benefits. So it is a perpetual cycle of poverty, right? Designed to keep people hand to mouth. And even though we know saving $100,000 is not a lot in the grand scheme of things, especially if you're disabled, it is a start. All right. So we will
let's do it, everybody.
Give him a Travis and a shake for that. So this is one of the times that I like to break away from the news for a second and talk a little bit about some new things or some fun things that I have been having fun with. And hey, Ashley, good to see you down there. So one of the things that I have been working on is being more mindful, being more present. Obviously, new year, new me, all that other happy bullshit, which is not the case. This is a continuous practice. This doesn't just start on January 1st. But I have been keeping the gratitude journal that I was given a year or so ago. And they're just morning and evening mindfulness activities. The morning, again, gives you a quote, but it asks you, this morning I'm grateful for. Something I can achieve today is. Something I can do today that relaxes me is, and my intention for today is. And then at the end of the day, now that the day is done, how mindful do you feel? And what can you try tomorrow to become a little bit more mindful? What are you feeling most grateful for tonight? And what do you want your intention to be for tomorrow? And I don't keep this every day. Actually, one of the things I was grateful for last night was the grace to skip days and skip not see this as an obligation. So I think that is one of the kind of important things to think about as, especially as a neurodivergent individual. When you get something like a journal, it feels like an obligation. I know I hear my kid constantly say, "Oh, I got to keep up with my Duolingo streak. Oh, I got to keep up with my," and I keep reminding her that's how they get you. That's how they get you. And again, marketing is real, people. All right. But you can market yourself. So the 5-minute journal. The other interesting one of the ones that I really enjoy, I'll try to show you one of these every week, because creativity and neuroplasticity as an old man is one of the things that I try to keep up with. So I want to make sure that I keep my brain a little active. So one of the things that I try to find are ways, rather than just crossword puzzles, to keep my brain funky. All right, which means to keep it moving, stretching out, all that other stuff. This is a fun one that my sister gave me a couple years ago, called the Creative Thinking Journal, and it's from Pilgrim Soul. And you can find this online. I've gone on, but this is a particularly interesting kind of journal, and I'll try to help you get a just a feeling of the topic of this journal. Using cannabis to enhance creativity. It literally is. It is a journal of writing that talks about the science behind neuroplasticity in cannabis, for instance, right? And there are all kinds of interesting studies, but this journal kind of walks you through the science while it gives you activities, right? So next week, I'll talk about some of the other ones that are a little bit more accessible depending on your habits and your proclivities. But that was a funny one that I thought was kind of interesting because it has all these different activities and kind of 5-minute exercises, right, that try to get you thinking differently. And next week, I'll show you some of the more user-friendly ones in another resource to give you kind of a visual understanding. And last but not least, my absolute favorite, okay, that I took on vacation, I have with me in my car, I have with me in my backpack at all times. And even though people look at me strangely when I first pull it out, they don't. The minute I sit down and enjoy myself, they absolutely become envious. But this absolutely little fabulous thing. Nice little carrying strap, nice little handle, adjustable carrying strap, and a handle, right? But it is a fully retractable stool that someone like myself can sit on. Now, I'm 260 pounds, okay? But I know that these are weighted up to 400 or so pounds. It is not wobbly at all. It is actually sturdier than some of the desk chairs that I've sat in some of the public buildings that I've had to go to meetings in. And I'm saying this as a former 500-pound man. This is a fairly sturdy stool. Anywhere from 10 to 15 bucks that you can find, 15 to 20 bucks online. They've got, covers that go on the top that'll do the spin thing. But this is absolutely great. Oh, and it's also adjustable. You don't have to adjust it up all the way. So if you have a low table, you can adjust it. I set it up. I've bought so many of them. We've got them all around the house. My kid uses them at the coffee table to eat. If she doesn't want to sit out in the living room or out in the dining room, wants to watch Bob Ross and eat her ramen because she makes me make her ramen all the freaking time. Doctor up the ramen. So thank you, YouTube. Thank you, TikTok, for your Chinese cooking videos. So that is an invaluable tool. I took it with me to the House of the Mouse in Florida, and it was fabulous. I watched so many people when we were standing in line, and I pulled it out of my backpack and I would look at my girls and say, "Anybody want to sit down?" And they'd say no, and I'd go, "Okay," and then I'd sit down. Oh man, it was the best. It was the best to have a table with me at all times. And the best part about it is or with a stool with me is that it can act as a table. So I do use them as end tables too if I need to, right? When we camp or when we go someplace, um, you know, like literally the size of one stool, you could have seating for 12, or dining seating for 6. So again, new stuff, fun stuff, design friendly and cheap stuff. That's what I'm all about. Okay, will rarely, I can't say never, knock on wood, but rarely will I come in with a $200, coffee pot or something like that. But I again, micro accommodations. So back to some news. What's in the news? UCLA is launching a new program to help adults with autism navigate complexities of dating and romantic relationships. It's a 20-year program, or 20-year. Whoa, shit. No, it's a 20-week program known as Peers for Dating. And it's set to begin a clinical trial. So they're going to be doing some studies to see how this works. Participants will attend weekly group sessions where they will learn about selecting appropriate individuals to date, online dating etiquette, initiating dates, planning activities, handling social pressures, and coping with rejection. Trained dating coaches will assist participants in applying these skills in real-world scenarios. These initiatives, in particular, are an extension of UCLA's program for the education and enrichment of relational skills, or what they call peers. All right, love the acronyms. This is an evidence-based social skills program for children and young adults with autism, and it's been implemented in over 150 countries. The Peers for Dating program is based on years of research, including focus groups and pilot studies. Elizabeth Larson, clinical professor at UCLA's Department of Psychiatry and Biobehavioral Sciences, and the developer of the Peers program, stated, quote, "Romantic relationships can be transformative, but for many autistic adults, the path to connection can feel uncertain. With the Peers for Dating, we are committed to provide evidence-based tools to empower participants to approach love with confidence, form lasting connections, and improve their overall quality of life." End quote. Applications for the Peers program can be accepted until January. So if you're interested, check that out. And you can get more information at disabilityscoop.com, or I'm sure UCLA.org. Upon completion of the study, UCLA plans to offer the program as a clinical service and train professionals worldwide to implement it. Great. Maybe. Depends on who's coaching. That's all I got to say. I would like more actual peer coaches. I know the state of Michigan runs a program for disabled sex educators. I was not able to participate in it this year, but hope to get the training this coming summer so that you can offer peer training and educational services to disabled people nationwide from a disability affirming perspective, right? So let's see what else. Oh, this is good stuff. See, I write these stories and then I forget about them because I write them throughout the week, and then I come back to them on Monday and go, "Ooh, look what I found." Subminimum wage may come to an end. U.S. Department of Labor has proposed a rule to phase out subminimum wage. So since 1938, Section 14C has allowed employers to obtain special certificates permitting them to pay workers with disabilities less than federal minimum wage, based on the assumption that their disabilities affect their productivity. We know this to be not the case. This has led to situations where individuals earn significantly less than their non-disabled counterpart, sometimes as low as pennies on the hour. So the proposed changes are going to cease to issue these new certificates and phase out the existing certificates. And this marks a significant step in a rule-making change for the first one in 35 years. Okay, so we're hoping that this reinforces their preliminary conclusion that these subminimum wages are no longer needed and they're no longer necessary to provide employment opportunities and incentives for employers. So how can you get involved? You can submit a public comment up until January 17th. So that is what? Friday. So you have until this Friday. If you go to the Federal Register's website, the Department of Labor, DOL, right? Go to the Federal Register's website. You could probably just Google, right? Subminimum wage comment, Federal Register with an E, not an O. If you're a college student, not registrar or with an A, or register with an O. Contact your representative. Obviously, contact their office. Talk to the staff. Agent advocacy groups. I'm sure there are email chains. It's public awareness, but honestly, submitting comment is going to be one of the best ways. Let them know. Post online. Tag your representative in it. Let them know that minimum wage should be for everybody. And actually, a living wage should be for everybody. But that's just me. So in other news, what's there in other news? I don't know if there's another news. Oh. Wow. Okay. Well, hello, TikTok. TikTok just sent me on a restriction. So that's fun. And that's why they're dying out. Because what was I talking about? I don't know. But that's interesting. Oh, the Stoner Journal. That's what it was. Because I mentioned the word cannabis. Well, fun. All right. So, well, with that in mind, what we'll be doing, again, I am in the full throes of a busy week. In other news, as I said, if you are in mid-Michigan this week, I'll be speaking at the Genesee District Library in Grand Blanc. Wonderful. Oh, thank you. LinkedIn threw up the notice. I love the community we're building. I mentioned the link. I don't have it up, and boom, there it is. So it's on the LinkedIn feed already. But this Tuesday, 6 p.m. at the Grand Blanc Library outside of Flint, I'll be giving a discussion about micro accommodations and how to help your family members in very small but very meaningful ways. So if you're interested, information can be found. Ooh, listen to that. Boom. All right. I hit the I need a new arm. I don't like those drive me nuts. Like I could do without the fucking springs. All right. However, I may be the only one that hears them. I'm not sure. But 6 p.m. Grand Blanc Public Library, be talking about micro accommodation. It's a free and open lecture. You can find more information on the GDL website, the Genesee District Library. That's GENESEE, districtlibrary.org. They've got event information and all that other fun stuff, but it's literally a walk-in. It is if you find the Big John steak and onion, the library is across the street from the Boba and Big John steak and onion, because I'm sure my girls will ask for, one of them will say, bring me a Big John, and the other will say, bring me a Boba. Again, good luck, but on your way home, which again is perfectly great for me, because service is one of my love languages, as they say. So I like to provide, like cook and serve. It's one of the things I do. So that is Tuesday. On Wednesday, I'll be on campus there in Dearborn. So if you need to chat I've got hours and classes and all that other stuff. Contact me if you need to contact me or meet outside of those hours, because I know that I don't get into the area until after, after 9 o'clock or so. But I can meet you where we need to. We can meet in the library. We can meet even for coffee if you need to. Everyone knows I'm a coffee junkie. So, and then I've got fun meetings for the rest of the week. So lots of fun stuff coming up. We've, as always, have a conference coming up in October for disability inclusion and destigmatization in Detroit, Dearborn, and the surrounding Michigan area. I have a possible book. I've got a possible journal article. I know I've got to be writing grants for this conference. So today I'll be pretty busy. I'll probably continue to hang out on the various social media networks if I can, if they don't completely restrict me. But if you do have questions, you can always send it to doc@humanities101.org, and that's DOC@humanities101.org. I don't see any questions coming through. I don't see any concerns coming through. This is a pretty good half hour. I appreciate everybody hanging with me. Next week we will be next week I hope to be here. I may be pre-recorded because it's Martin Luther King Day, and I do have a big meeting for the conference. But we will be holding regardless, right? So even if I'm pre-recorded 9 a.m. Next week, getting the venue booked for October. So I have to go do a walkthrough of another campus, not my campus, and look at the possible places we'll be holding. And we've got a lot of stuff. We're going to be having a session from we're going to be having a lived experience, a workshop, and an expert session in various group breakout sessions. So we're hoping to have 2 or 3 concurrent session groups with 2 or 3 various choices with each current session group. Then we're going to have guest speakers. We're hoping to have a resource fair and an employment fair. The state of Michigan is looking to provide us with some outreach for National Disability Employment Awareness Month, and even provide some job assistance, resume application, maybe even some employers hiring on site. So we're shooting for the stars. And right now we've got a lot of people saying we're coming. And so people are asking what's happening with the classroom. Great question, because there may be some students checking this out. Was waiting to hear on my accommodation for a classroom that is applicable. We do have a classroom set up in the A building 121 for Wednesday class. So in A121 is where the classroom will be held. I do not know how conducive it will be for 30 people. It may be cramped for 30 people. However, I'm told that it's the fire code. However, I also know my ornery butt, if it's too cramped, we'll figure it out. And we'll run the class in shifts or something, because the whole point is that it was supposed to be in a quiet, secluded area where there's low light, low traffic, low noise. And yes, for me, but also for students. This should be every classroom. But universal design is not there yet, so we got to block bust one class at a time. And so in A121 on Wednesday, I'll be meeting my hybrid class. We'll be going over kind of what the class is all about, all that other fun stuff, and how that class is different than the online class. Because the fully online class, we're all doing the same projects. But there's more required of the online students as far as reading and there's more required of the hybrid students as far as face-to-face participation, which just seems like that's what you would sign up for if you signed up for a face-to-face class versus a hybrid class. All right. So any other questions? Let's see. Yeah, you totally make lemonade, and I still plan on I would like to do a research study still about classism on campus and look at the various ways that classism rears its ugly head on the college campus, and not just with living amongst students, but with even access to facilities. So I always find it funny that, like for instance, in schools where maybe the English department makes money, they don't get to spend the money they make. So I'm always fascinated with that, and I think students are fascinated with that too, because they often ask why they have to pay so much for my class. That's the same as another class that has a lot of stuff in the classroom, and I tell them, because you pay that over here, because it's me and a pencil and you and a pencil, we're paying for that lab. But it's okay. We don't need that. But I still would like my respect. No, I'm just kidding. I'm in the humanities. I don't expect respect. I expect disdain. All right. I better go. I will see you YouTubers, Twitchers, LinkedIners, and Book of Facers later. As far as you other miscreants, we'll see. Got to see what I can do. All right. So as always, I will see you next week. And if you're still here, remind me again in the chat. What did I want to know? I don't even remember. Remind me in the chat. What I wanted you to remind me in the chat from the beginning of the video. No, I'm just kidding. I swear, next week I'll make sure that I write my Easter egg in there, because every week I'm going to have a question for the online students so that I know that they're watching this, and it'll be hidden throughout the video, and it will be, okay, now in the chat, drop your favorite pizza topping, something like that. So next week, be looking out for the Easter egg. Hi, Hydra. I see you. Hail, Hydra. Hydra OP just came in the chat, and I just had to laugh because, it's not often that you get to say Hail, Hydra. All right, you tube users,